Bob, I'm going to compare your swing to Russell Henley. I've stopped you just past impact. The shaft of the club is about right there for both of you. Drawing a box from the center of the ankles to the top of the head. Both of y'all are in a very similar position. You've got your left hip driving past that left foot, so that's very good. First, let's just look at from the forearms down, starting at the elbows. Both of y'all are fairly similar. I would even say that your left arm at this position is more extended than Russell. Russell has the beginnings of a little bit of a chicken wing, and you really are fairly extended there. As I take you up to the 9th position, when the right arm is close to being parallel, this is where some of the differences between the two swings occur. Russell Henley, in terms of the action in his hands and wrist, are more pro-like. Now, the action in his left elbow is not the common pro move, but the action in his hands and wrist are. He does come through and does a quick reposition of the hands and wrist on the follow-through so that he can rehinge the club upward. In order to correctly rehinge the club, you have to have the wrist crossed and the left hand below the right hand, even long before the 9th position, but it's certainly evident at the 9th position. And even though at impact your hands and wrist looked more like what we'd see the pros have, it's evident that you're not actually going through impact with this correct repositioning of the hands and wrist action. So the process of going from your backswing through impact to the follow-through has to include this gentle roll of the forearm, and it's not a full roll. You only want to have the forearms roll slightly in order to get the hands and wrist in a rehinging position on the other side, and so that the wrists don't cup, but they turn. Left hand is below the right hand so that you can rehinge. Now, in order to do that, that would require this left elbow, this left arm not to be so high. You can see how much higher it is above your right arm than in Henley's. Henley has that left elbow lower, has it down. He's actually beginning to fold the left arm, which is easy for him since he actually started that folding early. Even the pros who have an extended left arm at impact, they will, on the follow-through side, begin to fold that arm. The left elbow will begin its folding sooner than the right arm. At the end of the swing, both arms end up being folded a little bit, but the left arm will certainly start that folding action first. I want to look at your swing from down the line quickly, because I did capture one of your practice swings with the driver. I did not get a face-on view of your practice swing. Now I'm going to look at your downswing and through impact, and watch your gloved hand, your left hand, because we'll be able to see how in your practice swing you correctly make right there. I can see your white glove underneath your right hand. Right there, if we had the face-on view, we would see a position very similar to what Henley has, that you are quickly turning your hands and wrist in a rehinging position. You now have your wrist on top of the handle in both hands. That left elbow, I am confident would be lower and down like Henley's was at this position. Bob, I'm now going to compare this position on the right with your practice swing with your ball swing. So we've got you at impact on the left. I'm going to frame advance it to we're in a similar position, and again we're watching the left hand, and you'll see that right now we're very similar positions of the swing. If you look where the club head is, and I do not see the left hand, I do not see the white glove. Now as we continue the swing to the follow-through, let's start with the swing on the right. I want you to notice how at this frame we can see the club head and the shaft right there before we see any part of your left arm. So you have released the club head past your hands, you're rehinging the club up. Let's take a look at the swing on the left. I now can see your club head, but I am also, here's your shaft, but I am also starting to see your left arm a little bit here. Let's click this one more frame. I can see a lot more of that left arm. We are here first. I'm going to do another frame advance. Boom. Your shaft has now moved to here. Still cannot see your left arm. Your shaft has now moved to here. I still can't see your left arm. Still can't see your left arm. Starting to see your left arm. It's clear on your practice swing that your hands and wrist move differently. I don't know about more, but they certainly move differently than your ball swing. One of the other differences between your practice swing and your ball swing is the location of the strike zone of your swing. So one of the things that I believe is creating some of this look, the difference in these looks, is the location, the distance you are from here to here is closer. I think when you just do a natural swing, you're not trying to target the swing at some object down at the ground. You just swing the most comfortable. You let your subconscious mind choose its own natural swing path. I believe that natural swing path is closer to your body, to your core, than your ball swing. The strike zone for your ball swing is much further away from you than the strike zone for your practice swing. As we look at your setup compared to Grant Waite, you do reach a lot more and your hands are further away from your legs. Here we're looking at Rory McIlroy, and his hands are a little further away from his legs than Grant had his, but he's still inside of what you are. His arms are hanging a little bit more straight down. If I were to draw a line straight down from his eyes, they're basically right where his hands are. Your hands are reaching just a little bit more outside your eyes. It might be worthwhile to experiment a little bit with a slightly different setup, and that would allow your arms to swing under you a little bit more and your hands would swing closer to your legs. Now, to accomplish this, I would recommend that you basically try to stand a little slightly taller. If you looked at the flex in your knees compared to Rory has a little flex, but you have a little bit more flex in your knees for the driver. And so if you stood up a little bit taller, taking some of the angle out of your knees, that would automatically cause your hands to drift inward slightly and your arms come down a little bit more as you stood taller. So you might experiment with that a little bit and see how it feels. You don't want to, a good experiment is not 4 or 5 balls with the new setup. A good experiment is 30 balls, and then evaluate the potential of that change. But don't make a final judgment on the potential of that change after only 4 or 5 swings. We're going to follow the path of the backswing. I've drawn circles around the club head at different locations in the backswing, and I've drawn a red line up the shaft of the club through the body. And let's look at Rory's first. You'll see that club head just follow the path of that shaft line. Let's follow yours now. A little bit more inside. It's a little bit more what we call being laid off. I know that I talk a lot about trying to get the club inside, but you've done this maybe a little too much. You're too inside, and you've gotten a little too flat. Ideally, we want that to be right on that shaft line. Let's listen to Ian Baker Finch discuss and analyze Rory's swing.
Let's take a look at Rory McIlroy's swing. I believe it's the best swing in the game today. Just a natural, flowing, rhythmical takeaway with the arms and shoulders. Perfect position halfway back with the shaft dissecting the right forearm.
He talks about the shaft dissecting the right forearm. Let me put it in that position when he's halfway back. So that's the position he's talking about. From an instructional standpoint, when we look at golf swings, and we're looking for markers that identify correct positions. One of those is when the left arm is parallel to the ground, we would like to see the shaft on line with the right forearm. When Roy is at the halfway point, his hands are right in front of his chest. They're inside that right shoulder. When your left arm gets waist high, your hands have gotten so far inside and behind your shoulder, so you're not able to achieve that shaft position on the right forearm at this camera angle, mainly because you've taken your club too far back inside and not on this swing plane right here. When Grant gets to his halfway point in the backswing, he also has traveled there right up the shaft line pretty much, and you can see that his shaft is going right through his right forearm at this camera angle. And also, it's important to point out that his hands are in front of his chest and not behind it. One of the things that'll make it easier for you to achieve these positions is standing closer. The further you reach, the flatter your swing will be. So one of the things that we need to work on a little bit is your setup. So you're standing a little closer, taller. This will facilitate a little better backswing shaft angle and swing plane, so that's a little more upright. It needs to feel a little bit more upright. It's still going to be inside, and you still are going to have an outward path to create a nice little draw. But we need to get that path a little bit closer to your face angle so that the difference between the two is small. You always want the vector of your path to only be 2 or 3 degrees different than the vector of your face angle. That gives you a much tighter dispersion. The further apart those two vectors become, the more radical the ball flight is. If with a 8 or 9 degree path, swinging out too much, it's hard to consistently position a face angle that makes it a small curve. With that much outward path, you're going to have a variety of shots. You're going to have straight pushes to the right. You're going to have duck hooks with that. So you're going to have a much greater variety and dispersion spread than you would if you had a path angle that was a little bit more like a 5 or a 6 degree path. The pros that hit that nice high draw will have typically something like a 5 or 5.5 path and a 2.5 face angle. And your path and face are going to be too far away from those optimal positions with this particular backswing. Also, when we add the cupping with the wrist, that really creates the variation of the face angle. Whereas once you learn how to get into a rehinging position, that will quiet the hands so that the control of face angle will be much more consistent.